job is, because a lot of times, in organizations that I've worked in, you have the IT department, you have marketing, you have all these other, and now as digital kind of, really takes hold, you've got kind of these disparate goals. You have goals that don't match, and people sometimes are happy just crossing their arms and grumbling about maybe another silo in the organization instead of going over there and finding out what are they actually doing? What are they trying to do? And I know in a director's position and C-suite, I mean, that's naturally just part of your job. You're meeting with those people all the time, but the team that you're working with, encouraging them to do the same thing is a whole different story. And making them see and have empathy for the people that they're doing the work with is a full-time gig sometimes.
Yeah, it is. It is. And, to get people out of their silos, get people out of, their organizational boundaries, for sure. It starts with setting the example, I would say.
Yes.
I can't, if I act in a way, if I behave in a way as a leader that makes it so people need to go through me to make decisions, that sends a message. We're going to do command and control, and we're going to operate via the hierarchy. But if I'm willing to let go of that and give people a sense of empowerment and ownership and authority to make decisions and go resolve conflict and go talk to people and not have to escalate.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I just don't even respond to escalations. And again, try to if I respond, that almost incents the behavior, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I try to let people be fully empowered to interact with people directly that they need to talk to get the job done.
That's really funny. You say it that way. I used to threaten people that I was going to put a sign on my desk that says, "Have you talked to the person you have a problem with before you've come to talk to me?"
Yeah, that's totally it. It is. And I mean, that's for conflict resolution. That's obviously it. But even just on the proactive side, how do we get things done around here?
Yeah.
How do decisions get made? All that kind of stuff is I like to see, leadership setting vision and direction, but you need to, as a leader, you have to let go a little bit of the details and say, oh, we need to head in this direction. We take the exact path we take to get there is going to get dictated by people that have the authority to make those calls. And it might not look exactly the way that I thought it should, or the way I would do it if I was the one with the hands on the keyboard and kind of making that happen. But that's okay.
Yeah,
we're still getting there.
Yep,
we're still getting there, and people feel a lot more empowered and engaged as a result.
And one of the things you talk about in one of your posts, which I really enjoyed, was the meetings after the meetings and the meetings before the meetings. It's something that I think a lot of places struggle with. I think it becomes part of the culture where it becomes okay to not voice your opinion in the meeting. And I get it. I mean, if you've got 15 people in a meeting, you're not usually wanting to be the person that is going to be the wet blanket, right?
Right.
But if you're not saying something that's important for the group to hear, it could be something that could happen detrimental from the decision made or things of that nature, you're actually doing people a disservice. You're actually kind of messing with them. You're kind of screwing with them if you're holding this all back and just leaving it for a lunchtime conversation.
Yeah, it is. And, these are things that change over time. It has to do with the culture of the organization and what behaviors have been, rewarded or, punished in the past. People develop these patterns for reasons, and undoing them takes a lot of work. But people will respond to a different kind of mode of operation. And, a lot of meetings I'm in, I've got a kind of a facilitator role in that, and part of that is reading the room. And you might be setting down a direction, and I just look at body language, look at people's eyes. Do I have a bunch of heads nodding, or do I have a bunch of hearts nodding? Are people, really kind of in agreement or not? And you can tell times.
Yep.
So and drawing that out and maybe putting people on the spot a little bit is part of that. And not everyone's always going to agree, but we're going to make a much higher quality decision if we got everything out on the table. Certainly all of it might not be acted upon, but it's still going to go a lot better if we get it all on the table, all the voices heard, all the concerns addressed, and then we move forward as a group. So,
yep. And one of those things, and again, we're talking a lot more on the people that are part of the team, they're doing the work. But one of the other posts that I really liked, where you talked about being a new person on the team and how to how to start integrating with the team. I know you've written a really great post about it, but maybe give me some of the highlights for context from your opinion.
Sure.
on I'm a new person. I've shown up at this organization. They have their ways of doing it. One of the things I really like that you call out is figuring out, is that normal? Like that quote unquote, was that normal? Is a big deal, because you obviously you just got hired. You don't want to make waves, but at the same time you want to provide value because you were just hired.
Right, exactly.
And that might include creating some waves. So what are some of your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a great situation to be in, but it's also really common. And like kind of back to the fact that I talked about, working in large enterprise organizations. So my company's 80 years old. I look back in the history of the archives. From all evidence I can see, we bought our first mainframe back in 1960 something or other. So the IT department is more than 50 years old. It's got some serious heritage to it, history and patterns. This is not a startup, so where you get to just greenfield everything.
Right.
It's there's a legacy, there's a heritage.
Yeah, there's a foundation.
Yep. Yeah. So I think what people, you always say, okay, I want to hire, rock star developer or, Uber geek engineer, whatever. You get this talent in these organizations. And as a leader, part of my job is to go get that talent, attract that talent into the organization and plop them in here, and boom, here we go. Let's go full speed ahead. And, it's, hey, we're a mature, agricultural manufacturing traditional organization in a lot of ways, right? So we're not, Uber, we're not Netflix, and that can be, you have to kind of deal with that a little bit. And the folks that have been running here might have just came off the mainframe at one point in time, right? So it's having the kind of emotional intelligence to become a team player, I would say, is kind of job number one.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly learning the environment, learning the team, understanding the traditions. Simply just because it's a tradition doesn't mean it's bad. Maybe there's some good things to learn there. Yeah. And taking the time to listen and learn before making all those judgments is a really a part of it. And another thing I see people making the mistake on, and this it's not intentional, but I think it sends the wrong message. Well, where I used to work, we did it this way. And
Sure.
It's kind of this like slight, kind of subtle slam on the team you're working on, right? To say, you guys are backwards.
Right. Yeah.
And it's almost like I'm personally identifying with the company I used to work for and distancing myself from the team I'm on right now, right? It's subtle, but it sends a message. And it's kind of destructive, I would say, to the goal. So I always try to think is like, well, if your old company is still amazing, why don't you still work there? It's you're here now. Be present here. Be emotionally present here, and they don't always keep talking about where you used to work, because it really wasn't that great. They probably had a lot of terrible things about it too. That's why you left. And we always tend to idealize, our past and that kind of stuff. So that's a mistake I see people make, and that can create friction, unnecessary friction within the team.
Yeah.
So trying to bring your best learnings, bring your experience. That's why you're hired. But try to like really embrace the culture of the team that you're on now, and help them out, and kind of carry forward, and being patient. And that's kind of all part of it.
Yeah, no, and it's a really good point you bring up about that whole where I used to work. Like, obviously, I hired you because you're a talented person, and I'm hoping you bring a lot of that good stuff to this team. And I appreciate that you have this history, and but what are we going to do about looking forward than looking backwards, right? And
exactly,
I think that's the big part of being a good leader, whether or not your role is a leader or you're another cog in the wheel, whichever the case may be. Delivering on software is difficult work. And, you want a team of leaders. You want people that are going to say, I might have a better way to approach this. Like you said, rock stars, go-getters. But at the same point, they have to understand they're part of a larger team. And talking about the past is not necessarily going to set you up for the future. And I mention that to people sometimes that come to me with problems. And one of the first things I try to stop them and ask them is this a real problem, or are you just venting?
Mm-hmm.
Because I will address those things very differently. If you just need to vent, that's great. Let's go behind some closed doors or go outside and go for a walk, and you can tell me all about these things, and then you can get back to work.
Right.
But if there's a real problem, I need to understand what that real problem is and then what I can do to support you to get through that. And I think it's difficult when you're a new person. But like you mentioned, you've had some great mentors over the past, which I feel a kinship with what you're saying. I'm also a product of some great leaders and mentors as well that helped guide me through my career. For you, would you say, I would say, how would I ask this? The best way that you've found to really motivate a team, is it change? Is it treats? Is it having a vision? Is it what types of things have you found to be the most effective in motivating a team towards a common goal?
Yeah, that's a great question. Let me give you I'll give you a specific example that I thought was cool. It happened maybe about a year and a half ago, shortly into my tenure here at CHS. And I'll give you the answer and then I'll explain it. I'd say the biggest thing I think I can do for my team is believe in them. And here's kind of how that worked out a little bit. We had a challenge in front of us. We desperately needed to do some data center migrations. We had some aging critical infrastructure that was kind of crumbling. We needed to completely modernize it, go into new facilities, the whole 9 yards, and all the architecture and engineering that was going to be part of that, all the project management associated with that. And nothing like that had ever been done at this company before. And therefore, there was thought to, let's bring in some outside consultants because they're experts and we're not, to tell us what to do, right? A lot of enterprises do that. We rely on outside consultants to tell us what to do. And we got to this point where just in this particular engagement, I'm not saying things bad about outside consultants all the time. There's a time and a place to use them. I kind of felt like in this particular instance, they were maybe overplayed a little bit, over leaned upon. And, I saw my team wasn't responding. The consultants weren't delivering and we weren't getting anywhere. We're burning money.
Yeah.
And I just called it off and we fired the consultants. They sent them home. And I got my team together and I said, I know we haven't done a lot of these, but I think you know how. And I believe we've got the right team here.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys right now tell me if I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Do we need to go get more help, or do we know how to do this? And he's like, yeah, I think we know how to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And that was not something they were used to hearing from leadership, which was interesting. It's almost like sometimes we treat IT like, well, they're capable of keeping the lights on, keep the lights blinking.
Right.
But when it comes to like transformation, they don't know how to do that.
Mm.
But to believe in my team to say, we know how to get from point A to point B. We know what good looks like. We're living the problems. We're living the pain associated with doing it the old way. We're connected to the industry. We network with other companies. We go to conferences. We understand what good looks like. Yeah, I think we can do this.
Yeah,
and we did. So it took it took a little while, but we got from point A to point B. We actually just finished our data center migrations. A couple of weeks ago, we migrated out of 2 facilities and 2 new facilities, total refresh, total re-architecture, whole 9 yards, and we did with very minimal interruption. And it all took to kind of start that was a statement of belief.
Yeah,
and it's powerful.
Yeah,
it's really powerful.
It is, and I understand exactly where you're coming from. I find that throwing a team a challenge is sometimes the best motivator, like what you're talking about. I had a similar experience when we were going to build our first mobile app, and not a lot of people had done a lot in mobile, especially on the design side. And we sat down and we just threw out the challenge saying, other people are doing this. Other people can do this. I don't see any reason why this team is any less intelligent than they are or less hardworking than they are. We can figure this out if we lean on each other. And so, like you're saying, throwing out that challenge really brings the team together towards a common goal. versus a KPI, right?
Right. Totally. And I think it comes around to